Ramara Raji. I have a question relating to hackers. Hackers that are very active in a number of emerging countries and the advanced countries where you have a number of geeks who can break codes quite easily. When you set up world governance in this area or an international regulatory authority, would it not be a good idea to recruit massively hackers throughout the world? And in Morocco, we have a large number of hackers, and these people could be put to use to work with us rather than against us. Another question? Yes. Oui, j'avais une question à poser. Est-ce que l'on peut interrompre l'Internet? Et par ailleurs, j'avais une autre question à vous poser. C'est quelque chose qui peut être envisagé à l'avenir. C'est évidemment de travailler la main dans la main pour trouver des solutions. Et là, je parle au niveau éducation, donc dans nos écoles, puisque tout ceci concerne évidemment nos vies quotidiennes. Il y a l'espionnage, il y a le cyberterrorisme, et c'est un véritable problème qui concerne la gouvernance mondiale. Il faut absolument trouver des solutions. Aujourd'hui, il est très difficile de trouver des solutions, donc il faut absolument travailler au plan international. Yes, one last question before we listen to the answers. Yes, I'm from IFRI. There seems to be a lot of fear, a lot of concern relating to what has been discussed. Don't you have a slightly more positive view of the web, and to show how the various representatives are here, that is, the states and the major corporations can actually encourage joint collaboration to make sure that the web is a little more collaborative in nature? We've been talking about cybersecurity and cyber crime, and this is generating a lot of fear. This really represents only part of the problems, so maybe we could insist on the positive aspects of the web a little more. Well, yes, hackers, can they be recruited to ensure better security on the internet? Well, yes, this is already done. In fact, there are some people who headhunt the best hackers, and these people are recruited. Now, whether this should be done on a massive scale is another issue. What is true is that there are rather few defense mechanisms over the internet. You can be resilient, you can organize your resilience, but you need to think about the best way to respond to attack or to counterattack, and there, of course, hackers could be very useful. Now, whether we can cut off the internet, I think that was the question that was raised. Well, it depends on your situation. There are countries that are landlocked from the internet point of view. This is the case of a number of states in Africa that don't have coastal regions. Yes, and internet can be cut off in those countries. Or the internet can be cut off because your domain name has been attacked. This is what happened to Estonia. A service denial attack. And then I remember what happened in 2007. There were 2 or 3 root servers in the United States, and the one managed by ICANN, in fact, that collapsed, but ceased to function, and a number of countries organized themselves, working via an intranet, including China, rather than the internet. And China can actually cut off its operations and work via an intranet rather than the internet. And I do share your point of view as regards the concern and the fact that a lot of people seem to be very anxious. I do believe that there are many positive things that should be underlined, and that there are not only difficulties on the internet or threats on the internet or cybercrime, and I do believe that as regards governance of the internet, we need to make sure that internet remains a paradigm of innovation, a very open world where everybody has access, whatever the size, small and large, with very little capital, this highly accessible, and we're talking about economic governance there, a net neutrality governance. This is a very important objective rather than that of strictly cybersecurity. Well, net neutrality, how can we ensure this and the protection of the private sphere? How do we protect this? And how do we protect users as regards the data that is stored over a very long period of time. As regards net neutrality, the operators play a very important role. Operators tend to manage data, want to manage data, privilege certain data over others, carry out a vertical integration to privilege their content. In other words, you subscribe to an operator and it is a content provider as well. So operators need to be regulated. This is a debate that is taking place in the US and also here in Europe. So net neutrality is very important, but the neutrality of search engines is something that's very important. The internet can be neutral as regards its infrastructure, but if you have a search engine that actually makes proposals reflecting its own interests because it's integrated, it has interests in such and such a corporation, or it has a vision or preferences that might be national preferences, there the net is no longer neutral. And there you need to put pressure on the search engines, and you need to really expect greater transparency. Their strengths is their algorithms, and of course they don't want to disclose all of their secrets, but and the right to forget and the protection of private life, that is something that is a little different. As regards the protection of personal data, it's highly cultural in nature. It's very difficult to make progress in this area for that reason, and depending on the country, personal data is seen differently and corresponds to a different definition, depending on the culture and depending on the legislative system. But in all cultures, it's very important to be able to forget. And it is a guarantee in certain states that we call it prescription, that you can actually forget. You should be able to forget at a certain period of time certain data about certain people or certain corporations. So last week in Paris, we signed an agreement. Microsoft France took part in the signature of this agreement, the right to forget. So they were ahead of Google, Facebook, and other players over the internet, saying that internet users need to know in full transparency what is going to be done with personal data, and have to be forewarned as regards the personal data that are used. And of course, sometimes people put data that relates to you on the internet. It should be possible to withdraw these data easily, be it a picture or some text, and there needs to be an agreement between the sites and the search engines so that this de-indexing can take place. Because it's not simply withdrawing on Facebook a picture that you placed there of you as a teenager when you're half drunk, but you need to be able to de-index from the search engines the data, and that this information won't constantly pop up or reappear, for instance, and would be available to a future employer. Can you cut off, Craig Mundy, the internet? Is it something that is possible? And how do you do this?
I think there's different levels of the problem.
Alors, il y a différents niveaux de problème. Il y avait le brouillage de l'Internet, ça c'était le modèle historique, ça c'est le déni de service. Ça c'est un phénomène très localisé, vous avez la possibilité de bloquer une entreprise par exemple, vous avez la possibilité de bloquer une région, il y a des voies et moyens réglementaires où un pays peut intervenir pour faire cesser le transport de données. Mais la vraie question qui a été posée, c'est de savoir si quelqu'un peut interrompre ou éteindre le réseau. Je crois que c'est la question qui a été posée tout à l'heure. Et il me semble que la question est très intéressante et la réponse est non. Je dirais qu'aujourd'hui, à moins qu'il y ait un gros changement dans ce domaine, eh bien, nous nous trouvons dans une situation où une attaque pourrait être lancée sur des éléments critiques qui pourrait permettre d'interrompre ou d'éteindre l'Internet. Ça pourrait être fait assez facilement. Il ne s'agit pas d'éteindre les ordinateurs qui sont en réseau, mais vous pouvez procéder à une attaque concentrée sur l'épine dorsale, sur les infrastructures principales d'un réseau, et vous parviendrez à ce résultat. Et il faudra évidemment travailler à cette question, il faudra réfléchir à des solutions pour rendre le système beaucoup plus robuste, pour éviter que ce risque ne se matérialise.